Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn. I run the services and resources at MedCommsNetworking.com, which are intended for the global MedComms community, or for people who want to work in and around MedComms, by which I'm talking medical communications, medical education, medical publishing. You'll find lots of resources, lots of activities and so on. So hopefully go and have a look if you're not familiar with it. What we're doing at the moment is we're running these Zoom meetings, which is a great way of extending our reach and getting more people involved from all over. I'm very pleased today to have Jenny Plant with us. And we're going to be talking about account management issues and supporting your clients, developing business and so on. So on that note, I'm simply going to hand over to Jenny to do a presentation, which will be followed by a Q&A. So those of you listening to us, please get ready to send in some questions after Jenny's talked. Okay, Jenny, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Peter, for the lovely introduction. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for spending the time today. I'm going to be talking about the benefits of having a client development plan. So the first thing I want to share with you is there are a couple of statistics. Most agencies focus a lot of time on getting new clients, but sometimes it's overlooked the value of growing your existing clients. When I say growing, I mean developing those relationships and extending the amount of time that you spend with those clients, adding value to their business and sharing more of what you do and helping them grow theirs. So there's a couple of statistics. The first one is it can take from 5 to 25 times more in terms of expense getting a new client rather than growing an existing one. So it makes total commercial sense to focus on spending some energy and time on your existing accounts. Now, some people working in healthcare agencies feel if we're doing good work and we're delivering value, then naturally our client is going to want to work with us for a longer period of time and they're going to give us more business, which is absolutely true. But there's more things that you can do proactively to grow those existing accounts. The second statistic I want to share with you, which is another kind of big revelation really, that it can increase your profit margin from actually between 25 and 95% if you increase your current clients by just 5%. So just increasing that retention rate by 5% can increase your profit margins. So with all this said, you would think that most agencies, particularly for their client-facing staff, would have some kind of system, process, or models, tools, scripts, etc., to help their client-facing staff with how they can more proactively look for opportunities to add more value to their client business and hence grow their accounts. So first of all, I want to say, well, what do you actually need to grow an account? Well, you need basically three things. You need to be taking the right actions at the right time. Because let's face it, if our clients currently aren't going particularly well for whatever reason, then that's not the time that you should be seeking more opportunities to get more business from them. It's actually, well, let's do a really good job first before we then try to seek additional ways of growing this account. But what you're doing on a regular basis should be, how can we look to add more value? How can we be utilizing the opportunities that we have in front of our clients, asking questions, uncovering their challenges, looking at what their business outcomes are and how we can achieve and help them grow their business. So what are the actions we're taking? Also, what are the skills that we have? So do we have any sales skills? Sales sometimes is a dirty word for agencies, but selling doesn't have to be sleazy and in your face. It can actually be a lot more about serving. I actually prefer to use the term upserving rather than upselling. So what are the skills that we have? The listening skills, the diagnosing skills, the coming up with new ideas skills. And then finally, what's our attitude? Because I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. When I'm teaching my account managers how to grow existing business, a lot of it is down to how they feel and actually how engaged they are. Because unlike business development managers in an agency, they are not generally incentivized to seek more business. And sometimes they say to me very quietly, Jenny, I'm far too busy delivering those existing projects to look to have the time to look for more opportunities. So you have to have the right attitude and motivation levels. And actually, there are 4 levels of value that you can give to your client. The first level of value is just talking about your service. The service sells itself. You do good work, and you're probably showing your clients your capabilities. The second level of value that your clients get from you is the experience, the client experience. They fundamentally think you're a great team. I love working with you. And I probably give you a testimonial that you can use on your website, on your marketing materials. The third level of value, and we're going up in value here, is all about the business outcomes that you're helping me achieve. This is the fact that a client works with you is because they know that there's a direct return on investment. The kind of ability you'd have as an agency is diagnosing the client's issues, using your questioning techniques to uncover the challenges they're having so that you can look for more ways to help them. So you would have some kind of sales process. And then the top level of value that your clients are looking for from you is future value creation. And what I mean by that is that you are systematically and on a regular basis looking for new ideas that you're going to bring that are relevant to their business. What are the strategic thinking ideas you can come up with that are fundamentally going to help them with a shift in their business and help them change what they're doing? So your ability in this arena really is you're going to have a level of business acumen. You're going to be able to converse with the client about their business outcomes, and you're going to be situationally aware. What I mean by that is that you're looking at the trends both in their industry and in yours to see where the overlap is, so that you can think about ways that you can bring new information, new ideas, and something that's going to ultimately surprise them. The word trusted advisor has 2 words, trust and advice. So you're trusted, but also you're giving them advice. Now, the actions you need to do if you are giving this level 4 value is that you will be on an ongoing basis, researching their industry, your industry, looking at what's happening, looking at what the big trends are, analysing that data, and then going to them with your point of view. So just understanding where you are on that level, first of all, with all of your clients that you're dealing with in your agency is a good starting point. With level 1 and level 2, this is very much about you. Level 3 and level 4 is a lot more about them and their business. So as I'm talking, just think about all of the clients you currently have and where you think you're operating in terms of the value you're giving. The next thing you want to do is, because this is something I hear all the time from agencies I work with, we never have enough time, we're so busy. So one of the starting points you can make is, well, where exactly should I be focusing my energy? Who are the clients that I need to really prioritize? And here you can just see one example of a simple way that you can plot your agency accounts in terms of growth potential and available budget or profitability maybe. So who are your platinum clients? And perhaps there is a good place to start in terms of focusing your efforts on looking for more ways that you can be adding value. The next thing you want to do is within those clients, the individuals who we are interacting with from the agency perspective, who are they and how supportive are they of us? And how influential are they in their client company? And for each of those people, we could be coming up with a different strategy, a different approach to strengthen that relationship. So just simply, again, using some kind of plotting system that you can think, well, who are the active supporters and who are the active blockers? Who are the passive supporters and passive blockers? Because for each person, you can take a different approach. And actually, I'm just sharing with you a few ideas for what you could be doing differently. So for example, those very influential people on the client side that perhaps are not particularly supportive of you, perhaps they choose to use another agency for their services, or perhaps they haven't seen how much you can do for them, then the main thing that you have to do with these clients is look for the feedback that they're going to give you. You need to get their feedback. Why is it that they don't enjoy working with you? Why is it that they choose to use another agency. And perhaps for that reason, you can carry out some kind of evaluation of the relationship. Also, if you are perhaps an account manager that's quite junior and you recognize that there's someone very influential on the client side that perhaps is using different agencies, then perhaps introduce someone more senior in your agency to have that relationship with them so that they can have more of a peer-to-peer relationship. Similarly, and I'm focusing here on the right side of this chart for a reason, because these people that are most influential are the ones that, again, would be a good starting point for you if time is an issue for you. So the ones that are very supportive and very influential within their organizations, they're the ones we could be leveraging to ask for testimonials, ask for referrals, i.e. who else could they be introducing us to within their organization. And perhaps they're the ones that we should be asking for their brand plans to share with us their objectives, their strategy, so that we can see exactly where they're going and how we can help. And the other side of this matrix, obviously, we want to keep people engaged. So everybody should have some kind of strategy. And the reason I say this is that often with account management, it's quite random. We don't take a lot of time out of the business to sit back and think, where should we focus our attentions? Where could we be more strategic with developing those relationships? The next thing I want to share with you is why you would bother asking for referrals from existing clients. Here is a calculation that you can use. It's a typical client lifetime value calculation. And you could probably read through it yourself, and it's fairly self-explanatory. But the key issue, the key point I want to take out of this slide is to just demonstrate going from an average project sale that you might be working on right now, how many times are you doing that project per year? And if you multiply that amount by how many years typically you would work with that client, then that would give you the average lifetime value. But then if you ask for a referral to 3 other people that would give you a similar amount of work, then you could actually quadruple that client lifetime value by 3. So what starts off as a project of £5,000 or dollars could end up with a value of 240,000. And I think doing this simple calculation sometimes it sort of drives the message home as to why it's important to focus on adding more value to our existing clients. So what kind of things could you be doing? Well, you could offer a client-centric referral. And what I mean by this is that in your agency, you have a lot of skills and experience. Your clients see you as experts. They often see you as being at the top of your game and right at the cutting edge of what's changing. So you're in a very good position to educate your client. So one way that you could get referrals, particularly from big clients where there are other perhaps brand managers within that one organization that you could be exposed to, is offer your client a series of educational events where you are positioned as the educator. You're teaching them some aspect of what you do. Because clients are very busy working on their brands, working on their products, and they're not perhaps as forward thinking as you. So if you have an idea, perhaps you're using a new social media channel, perhaps you're doing projects for other clients that would be particularly interesting, perhaps a new piece of technology, or perhaps you've spotted that there's a political change coming up or a legal change coming up in your industry that you would or your client would benefit from, then offer them a series of educational maybe lunch and learn sessions where you say, we'll come to your office, come and join us, we'll bring the sandwiches, we'll spend 45 minutes, we'll kind of teach you on this subject, and is there anyone else that you'd like to bring along to this event? We're turning up anyway, so perhaps you'd like to invite other colleagues. So that's a lot more of a subtle way that you can get in front of more people within their organization. Similarly, with proactive ideas, think about either the project you're working on currently. What else could we be thinking about in terms of ideas to come up with that we could surprise our clients with? The clients want to know that you're thinking about their business. So if you were to say, we're looking at this existing brief, and we know that you also want to expand your reach, or we're doing a disease awareness campaign, and we think we could be doing more for you, then we'd like to present some new ideas to you. Is that okay? Tim Williams from Ignition Consulting Group, who's a thought leader in the agency space, he does a lot around pricing strategy. He conducted a survey quite a few years ago about what clients really want. And one of the key reasons that clients get rid of their agencies is because they never gave us anything that we didn't ask for. That was one of the quotes that kind of summed up the findings. What does that tell us? That tells us that actually, even though we're working on our existing projects with clients, they're waiting for us to surprise them with new ideas, with thoughts that we've been thinking about you, we've been thinking about your industry, we know what your business objectives are, so we've got some ideas for you. It's not difficult to come up with new ideas or to look at trends, to see what's coming down the pipeline. Things like KPMG. KPMG is a management consultancy, and they often publish these reports where they're looking into the future. They've got a lot of investment behind them. They've got a lot of staff who are doing this research on your behalf. So you can pick out some of these key insights that you believe are relevant to your client's business and share them with them. Now, what's relevant to your business, to your client's business, is going to be very much down to how much research you do in your own time to understand their business and their industry. So as well as diagnosing every time you go and asking them questions about what's important to them, what their business outcomes they're looking for, it's actually doing some background research. Similarly, PricewaterhouseCoopers, again, it's another management consultancy that are often bringing out these reports about the pharma industry in the next few years. So download the report, they're free, and have a look at those insights, and perhaps look at your client's website, download the executive summary of their report and accounts, and have a look at what's important to their business. So there's just a few ideas. But fundamentally, what we should be doing when we're in front of our clients is listening 70% of the time, and 30% of the time asking for more information. There's obviously a way to ask questions so that they don't feel that they've got the Spanish Inquisition, but certainly we can position ourselves as a lot more strategic advisor and trusted advisor by asking really good quality questions on an ongoing basis. So once we've kind of done this analysis, this enables us to put together a very simple one-page plan that's not going to take too much time and effort, because time is never on our side on agencies. We're often very reactive, where we can really detail per client, per account, per role. Are they influential? Are they a platinum, gold, silver, bronze client? What's the current level that we're operating at in terms of value? Where do we want to go in terms of added value? What's our idea? What's the approach? Who's going to do it and by when? This is a very simple action plan that you can use to start off your strategy. So really, what I want to end up with is by encouraging you to stand back from the business, have a look at currently where you're at with your clients, who are the ones that you're doing really good work for and things are going well, where you can see opportunities to add more value. Plot them out, look at the individual relationships, think about what value you could bring, and then start taking action. I would love you to connect with me if you want any more information. Obviously, I'm going to be here to answer any questions you've got, but I've also got a LinkedIn group. But I hope this has given you some food for thought, and some ideas that you can utilize for adding more value to your clients and coming up with a client development plan. So, Peter, I've rushed through that quite quickly, but I would love to hand back to you just to kind of wrap up that section so we can
Great.
kickstart some questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Jenny. If we can lose the slides, we'll have a little bit of a Q&A now. So again, talking to the audience, please do, we want this to be driven by you, so come in with your comments and your observations and your questions. Just to remind you, you've got two buttons at the bottom of your screen, a Q&A button and a chat button, both of which will call up a text box, and use those to send in your questions, and we'll pick them up from here and hopefully answer them accordingly. Jenny, I'm gonna kick off, Jenny, and it's a thing, I know we've talked a bit about it before, but I'd like to talk a bit about it again, because it's just the thing that I can't stop thinking about as you're talking. And I know I'm a bit older than, quite a lot older than some of the people on the call possibly, but if you go back to me doing business development or account management within an agency a few years ago, there was a point at which I was in Basel every week, and I was talking to my particular client, but I'd be there for maybe 2 days or something, because you sort of have to be, and you'd sort of like walk the corridors, you'd sort of meet people, you'd bump into people, you'd have a chat, you'd find out that someone was free, so you'd sit and have a chat, whatever. It strikes me that these days, if you're you almost have to be quite lucky to get anyone on the phone or on a video conference or something. There's a remarkable amount of pressure just to have an email, backwards and forwards, make a decision and move on. The whole relationship building side of this, and a lot of what you've talked about, requires some relationship building. And I just wonder, whether you've got any observations on that side of it, because that for me is the really tough challenge now. If they won't talk to you, and you can't go and visit them, so you can't walk the corridor. So that's where I just wonder how people do it, what they do. And have you got any observations on that aspect?
The first thing, if I'm going to be quite blunt, if they're not seeing you and you're trying to reach out to them, they don't obviously see that you're going to bring any value. If you're operating at level 4, then if I came to you, Peter, and said, look, Peter, I've noticed there's 3 trends that are happening right now in your space, and I think you need to be aware of those. And I come to you with some new value, some new ideas that is going to help you either avoid any things that you shouldn't be, you should be aware of, or conversely, an opportunity where you're going to be able to get more value, get more viewers, then you're going to see me differently. You're going to see me as someone bringing value. So the first thing is value first. If you want to enter from the right, i.e. enter at level 4, you need to be seen to be bringing the value. I'm not saying it's easy, it's hard, but it's taking the time out to discover what those trends are and what's important to them. It's not easy, but it's a series of actions that you can take if you're driven. And let's face it, you can see that the numbers make so much sense to put in the effort. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, yeah, I'm old-fashioned too. I know the phone is quite irritating to people now, but you've got little things that you could be doing. I recommend an app called Bonjouro. Bonjouro is where you can send a video message. Now, popping up, if you get a video message that's exclusively for you, a little video of me just speaking to you for 30 seconds, say, hey, Peter, haven't spoken to you in a while. I've got this idea that I just wanted to share with you, blah, blah, blah. That's cutting through the noise a little bit. Similarly, with LinkedIn on the app, you can actually do a voice message. So think a little bit creatively. The other thing I think you should also be doing is raising your profile online. LinkedIn has become a hotbed for new business activity. So be there, at least have your profile up to date. At least share a few thought leader pieces, because if your clients are active on LinkedIn, you should be trying to enter the conversation from that angle as well. So there's a couple of ideas.
Okay, cool. All right, let's pick up a couple of questions that have come in while we're talking there, and as I say, please everybody do ping us your ideas and thoughts. We've got Anonymous here saying, what are the most common refusals when you ask for referrals? I suspect fear of losing the team they like to others or capacity concerns. What else needs to be mitigated? So what's your answer to that?
Sorry, you said it so quickly, I wasn't following you.
Oh, sorry. This is Anonymous saying, what are the common refusals? If you ask for referrals, and I think, I'm understanding what you're saying, the first reaction might be, well, I'm not going to pass you on to somebody else because I want you working for me. We've all sort of been in that sort of position. So, does that crop up? How do you deal with that? What other sort of common refusals do you get from that?
I mean, that does.
Which might not be. I suppose the point here is it's not that we won't refer you because we think you're rubbish. It's because I don't want to refer you because I'll lose you or something. I just wondered what your thoughts are on that.
I think that's a really good point, and that does come up a lot, and I think that's absolutely fair. And what can you do about that? Sometimes you can't do anything about that. If they perhaps have, I just want you for myself because it's a bit of a competitive advantage versus the other brand managers in my organisation. You know, hey, there's not a lot you can do about that. If it's I want you all to myself because I don't think you actually have the capacity to handle any more work, then that's another slight reason, and perhaps that's something that the managing director of the company needs to do a little bit of work around to reassure the client that you do have capacity and that there's another division of your agency who would like to work with you. I think it's a really fair comment, and I appreciate the question, but yeah, with that particular pushback, then I think those are the two angles that I can think of right now.
Okay. Let's just follow Anonymous for a moment then. So he's come back, and how do you identify the right person to speak to without a referral? Different titles in different organizations and so on and so forth. I mean, that's one of my, again, it's one of my bugbears, I have to say. You know, a lot of organizations you come across now pride themselves on not having job titles. That can make it very difficult from the outside to work out who you're talking to. And
Okay.
Again, have you got any observations on that?
So two things. If you, look, depends on the strength of your relationship. If you've got a client relationship that is, you're getting on so well, you're like mates, you go for a drink, you have fun together, then it's really easy to ask for a referral. It's a matter of saying, you know, look, we've massively grown, we've got this new arm, we've just acquired this company, we're doing really great work. Is there anyone else in your network you'd like to invite? You could introduce me to? You could proactively look on their LinkedIn profile and see who they're connected to and ask, say, look, I can see you're connected to X. Is there any chance of an introduction? There's a less, if your relationship with them isn't so strong and you can't have that pally-pally chat, then at the end of the year or every 6 months, you're probably carrying out an agency client evaluation.
Right.
And on one of those questions where it says, you could say, you know, how likely are you to recommend us to somebody else? And if they click 10 and they send that survey back to you, then pick up the phone, say, thank you so much for filling in that questionnaire. By the way, I noticed that you'd clicked 10. Did you have anyone in mind when you made that choice? So they can say, oh, you know, well, actually, I was thinking, yeah, and just follow on the chat. So there's two ways that you could perhaps, you know, look for who you want to be referred to. The reason I use the bring education first, and is there anyone else that you'd like to come along to that educational event that might benefit, is that it's a lot more of a subtle way of getting the referral. Ultimately, they're going to put someone in the room, then it's your job to create that relationship and then to follow up.
Okay.
So it's not so obvious.
Let's jump over here to Sarah's question about the rising power of procurement teams. How much time do you think now to spend with the procurement experts as opposed to your sort of the actual client, as it were? What are the dynamics there?
I think, right, first of all, you need to educate yourself about the games procurement play. What I mean by that is procurement people typically are trained up to the eyeballs when it comes to how they deal with agencies. They are the king and queens of negotiation. And the first thing is to educate yourself in the kinds of things that they do typically during a negotiation. That's the first thing. The second thing is, yes, Sarah, I absolutely agree that it is worth spending time with them. Depends on the person. But I was very successful at Publicis, actually, developing a relationship with a lady who I still call a friend now. She was in procurement. And the thing is, sometimes you think these people that come into procurement, often they come from a procurement background that was more used to selling widgets, you know, buying and selling products rather than services. And sometimes they're actually, they want some education about the services space. So one of the things that worked for us, no, I don't know if it's going to work for you, but is to invite the procurement team over to the agency, and for them to sit down with each department in the agency to work out how you work. And it just led to more success by actually treating her well and like a relationship. We took her to lunch when she came over. She was really appreciative of how we'd provided this orientation day. So yeah, it's difficult, and every procurement team is different. But yes, I think it's worth the effort.
But again, it's worth. I suppose the point is obvious, and I don't want to dwell on what I said earlier. But it's not just the one person who you're dealing with. There's a whole bunch of people around them. There's influencers. There's people directly, indirectly influencing. And it still strikes me that it was easier in the old days, if I can put it like that, because you could sort of you could knock on their door or walk past and go, oh, it would be useful to. Whereas you have to be very much more proactive, don't you, to involve those different people in these sorts of situations, I guess.
One thing I would also suggest is, whilst it's not MedComms, it is the IPA every year has a business growth conference, and I've attended for the last few years. It's very top value, and all the procurement people go. It's mostly for the advertising industry. However, you get exposed to lots of procurement people, and the business growth conference is all about, at that level, all about how agencies can work better with procurement. So, and actually you can look on YouTube if you follow up IPA Business Growth Conference. It's a really good source of information.
Okay, just out of interest, flipping it around slightly, is this a fair point to say? If you're an account manager and you're enthusiastic and you're following the sorts of things you've talked about and so on, is there a risk that you're worrying about? I can sort of imagine a situation. I can remember a few situations where you'd come back and go, well, hey, looks like I'm going to make this fail or something, and then a whole bunch of creatives, writers, whatever, people back in the office are going, oh, I'm just so busy. Do you find much when you're talking to people about a conflict between, and there must be, but what are your observations on the conflict of going out and getting more business, and actually the people sitting back there going, oh, it's just too much to do, don't go and get more business, sort of thing, and there's a conflict in there, isn't there?
I think this comes down to culture. It's like when I showed that triangle, it's about the attitude piece at the top. The attitude of your staff is directly correlated to the culture of your agency. If the staff are, quite frankly, not motivated, they're burnt out, overworked, they are certainly not going to be behind you. But the leaders that I meet nowadays in healthcare communications, I can actually think of some fantastic leaders of agencies who motivate their staff. How do they do that? I don't know, but it comes from them. They make their staff feel so fantastic. They give them recognition. It's not about them, it's about shining the light on their staff, and actually their teams are highly motivated, so you don't get that, oh god, another account, more business. That shouldn't really happen if you are a fantastic leader. And unfortunately, yes, you do get agencies who are so backs to the wall, and they don't feel appreciated, they're not getting recognized, and nothing's going to happen. You're not going to get referrals. You are going to be complaining about work. So I think that comes down to culture, Peter, if I'm really honest.
Okay. Which has to be led from the top. I mean, that's possibly part of the problem as an account manager. You need the leaders to engender that culture. Okay.
Yeah, and when you get a good leader, and as I say, there are some, and the teams are fantastic. They're firing on all cylinders. I go in and I train, and they're just chomping at the bit for more. They're going out, they're taking action, and they're trying these techniques, and they're coming back with the business. So it's a win-win. So start with your culture.
Okay. So Sarah's come back with another question here, which maybe is worth dwelling on for a second. What's the best way to demonstrate the value of our work? We have limited data on ROI, return on engagement, and so on. So what sort of ways can you look at the ROI?
I suppose it depends on the nature of the project, but it's always thinking about ultimately what's the business outcome. So I always sort of do a little chart. What's the product? What are the benefits to the client of having that product or service or project? But ultimately, what are we trying to achieve for them? Is it to increase sales? Is it to close the sales cycle? Is it to capture market share? So there's always a business outcome for what you're doing. First of all, you've got to have the discussion with the client and recognize that there is a commercial ultimate commercial benefit for doing this project, because they're not giving you money for nothing. Having that conversation, but sometimes, yes, it's not easy to get what has been the return on the investment. So, certainly ask the client to give them their uplift in sales, perhaps over a period of time of which that project's going on. If you have a digital project, it's obviously a lot easier to capture, how many conversions we had, how many downloads we had. It's a lot easier to sort of capture it. And sometimes the client restricts you having that information. So I understand your frustration, Sarah. I feel your pain.
Okay, just maybe we can just sort of wrap up the recording part of this with just picking up on a question that Emily, I think, was asking. But a lot of this is about, a lot of the advice is around about analysing where you are at the moment and then doing something with that sort of thinking. Yeah. So you had your sort of graphs, as it were, your tables, plotting where your accounts are, and a lot of this is about taking a moment to think about that and then moving forward from there. So Emily's just sort of said, just simply help some criteria for identifying where they are on this scale. So perhaps just as a way of wrapping this up, just a couple of pointers as to, if I'm sitting here at the moment and after this stops, I'm going to sit down and go look at my accounts. What sort of criteria am I looking for to try and map them on your little your graphs there?
Really, the criteria is flexible, and it's down to you, really, what criteria you want to use. But I always think that, look, if you get that access, growth, and either available budget or profitability, then you have to be really certain that actually that is the growth potential. So, for example, you might mark a client down as a bronze, but maybe you haven't spoken to them a while, or maybe you haven't done the research to see, maybe they've got new products coming out, or they've got a big initiative happening where they're going to be growing. So it's again, having a bit of business acumen, doing a little bit of research to understand their business before you do that plotting. So there might be a step before that. Do some research, ask the clients as well. Because let's put it this way, client will tell you that they've got a budget for your activities. But if you came up with an initiative that was going to either save them money or make them more money, then they may find money from somewhere else in the organisation to put towards it. So it really is, again, this is not easy, but it takes time, but it is worth the effort. So do a little bit of research about the business before you do that plotting. And in terms of numbers, there's no sort of particular criteria. It's not like, 100,000 here or 20,000 there. It really is based on your particular pool of clients and what you know about them first and foremost, really. And looking at your numbers, looking at your forecast, looking at your profit and loss. Some of us are pricing by time. So what are the time levels you have? Maybe there are different contracts for different clients. So looking at really from your financial point of view, how much money you're making and how much effort is going into it. So there's a few elements there.
Okay, all right. Look, I've got one eye on the time, and I think we'll draw the recording part of this to an end. We'll have a little bit of a blip there with the sound, but I think we'll get away with that. So, if I may, I'd like to draw it to a close. Thank everybody for their questions. To those of you online at the moment, please don't all rush away because we'll carry on talking to the top of the hour. All being well, the video will be on NetworkPharma TV later on, so people can catch up with it there. If people are interested in what's going on here, do come to medcommsnetworking.com and you'll find lots of details about future webinars and activities and more services and so on. I like to think that pretty much if you want to know about MedComms, you can find it at medcommsnetworking.com. Please do. On that note, huge thank you to Jenny for coming and joining us today. I'm going to say a big thank you and stop the recording and just ask Jenny to give us a wave. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.